Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So yesterday, I gave out my bottom 10 teams in the NHL for next season after free agency, after a lot of the moves have already gone down. So it's only right that now we give out the top 10. And by the way, I'm filming this immediately after filming the bottom 10. That's why I'm wearing the same goddamn shirt, not wearing the same shirt a day later. But we're going to get into it because some contenders lost a lot of guys. They were up against the cap. They had to trade some guys, let them go in free agency. Meanwhile, some other teams like a Boston Bruins had money to spend, so they got better. So the things are definitely switched. This is not going to be a repeat of last year's standings, last year's playoffs. I got some hot takes. So without further ado, let's get into it. And at first, I have the Edmonton Oilers. When looking at them, they lost to really just like Warren Foegele, and Kane is probably going to be on LTIR, thank God, at $5.125 million. And they brought back basically everybody, Adam Henrique, Janmark, as well as bringing in Jeff Skinner on a one-year deal at $3 million. Victor Arvidsson, great deal of 2 years at $4 million. So they're bringing in legit like second-line talent on pretty cheap deals while bringing back all of their bottom six pieces. I'm very happy what they were able to do in this offseason. Did they address the defense? Not exactly, but we couldn't really expect. Maybe Cody Ceci eventually gets traded, but Darnell Nurse was never going anywhere. Vinny Desharnais, you're perfectly fine letting him walk for $2 million. But overall, I still think that this is the most talented team in the entire NHL after adding some of these guys. The defense, it's not great, but it's perfectly fine. We saw it in the playoffs. It was fine. It was fine. The goaltending is fine. Stuart Skinner is fine as your starter. Is he an elite guy? No, but he saw that he can clutch up late in series. What was his stats from like game 4 to 7? He was fantastic. So when looking at the Oilers, this was the best team for the final 3/4 of the season once they fired Jay Woodcroft. Best team in the entire NHL, went 7 games in the Stanley Cup final and didn't lose anybody in the offseason. In fact, gained 2 pretty sizable pieces while losing 2 guys that you honestly were not that good. Next up, the Dallas Stars. When looking at the Dallas Stars, last year they were 1 point off the President's Trophy, went to 6 games in the Western Conference Finals. And although, yes, I do not like the moves of Matt Dumba and Ilya Lyubushkin, the fact that they let Chris Tanev walk, as well as, well, they bought out Ryan Suter, but that was Brian Suter is on the same level as Dumba and Lyubushkin. I'm not a fan of those moves, but when looking at it, I don't think it's the end. I don't think it's the end of the world. They were able to bring back Matt Duchene on a 1-year deal at $3 million, and your second pair right-handed defenseman and your third pair right-handed defenseman is not going to make or break your team, especially with a team like Dallas that still has all of their core key pieces, and all of their core key pieces are a decent age outside of like Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. They're all pretty young, so when looking at it, yes, you may be downgraded at your second pair right-handed defenseman, but overall, Harley's going to take another step. Wyatt Johnston's going to take another step. You're going to get a full season of Logan Stankoven and Maverick Bourque. They're still going to be a high-level contender. I have absolutely no doubts in my mind. When I made this list like 3 weeks ago, Dallas was number 1. They do get knocked down a little bit, but that's because I was really surprised what Edmonton did, and because of the Dumba and Lyubushkin, they're still not that good of moves, but Dallas should still be a high-level contender heading into next season. They should be top 5, top 3 in Stanley Cup odds across the board, no doubt. At third, I got the Florida Panthers. Now, they obviously won the Stanley Cup, but they lost sizable pieces. They lost Brandon Montour, arguably, not really arguably, probably their best offensive defenseman. Ryan Lundberg was a very good bottom sixer for them. OEL really emerged as that third pair left shot defenseman, so, or maybe a second pair, I don't really know. But when looking at it, OEL is a very important piece of them. They did get Nate Schmidt on a very cheap deal, as well as pick up some other bottom sixers to kind of fill the void of the guys that they lost. Their core, for the most part, similar to Dallas, but Brandon Montour was a part of that core. Besides that, their core is still intact. They were able to keep Sam Reinhart. Bobrovsky still is playing at a high level. Maybe the aging curve hits them next year, but when looking at it, as long as they're well-rested, well, they're not going to be well-rested compared to other teams, but as long as they're not banged up like they were last year coming into the season when Ekblad and Montour missed like the first month plus, they're still going to be a high-level team. I'd still predict them to win the Atlantic Division. I still think they're the best team when healthy in the entire Eastern Conference. They should still be north of 105 points. And fourth, I got the New Jersey Devils. This is going to be a spicy hot take. Yes, last year they shat the bed. There's no doubt about that. What did they finish with? Like 82 points. It was very unfortunate, but the problems were so identifiable. It was goaltending and getting more so solid on the defensive end, especially defensively. So when looking at it, they go out and they get Jacob Markstrom. You compare that to Vanacek or Akira Schmidt in net. That is a massive upgrade, even though Markstrom is up there in age. He was great last year for the Calgary Flames. So big upgrade there, as well as Jake Allen probably being an upgrade as the backup compared to last year, on top of getting Brendan Dillon and Brett Pesce for your defense core. They're veteran guys, stout defensively. Pesce can offer a solid amount of offense. So I really like what the New Jersey Devils did, as well as Stefan Noesen and Tomas Tatar. Tatar really struggled last year, but his last year with the New Jersey Devils in 2022-2023 at 48 points, so maybe find some of that chemistry yet again with the Devils. So as long as Jack Hughes stays healthy, as long as a lot of their pieces stay healthy, as well as Markstrom playing solid, them being more defensively sound, Dougie Hamilton being healthy. We've got Dougie Hamilton only played 20 games last year. Simone Nemec taking another step. Luke Hughes taking another step. Dawson Mercer having a bit of a bounce back. This team should be at the top of the standings, should be one of the top contenders in the entire Eastern Conference. I still believe that they're closer to the team in 2023 than they were in 2024, especially because they objectively, for the most part, got better this offseason. I don't think that's up for debate, and they really dealt with some injuries last year. I'm high on the New Jersey Devils. I'm ready to get hurt by them yet again. At 5th, I got the Vancouver Canucks. Honestly, heading into this offseason, I thought that they were going to be significantly worse next year. Got hit by that PDO. Their PDO was like 102. They're a very lucky team, but after seeing what some of the other Pacific teams did this offseason, LA Kings, Vegas Golden Knights, I'm high on the Vancouver Canucks. I still think they're a top 2 team in the Pacific Division, especially. I really like how Patrick Allvin did not overpay for Elias Lindholm or Zadorov, especially Lindholm, because he gave so much up to get him. I like that he was willing to say, no, I'm not locking you guys up until you're 35, 37 years old. And as a result, he was able to get some solid, nice pieces, some lower end pieces that are cheaper, as well as spend some money on a guy like Jake DeBrusk that I think is going to be a really good fit in Vancouver. So when looking at it, they still have that elite core 5 that they have of Demko, Pedersen, Miller, Hughes, and Besser. So when looking at it, as long as those guys still play at a high level, he was able to get off the Ilya Mikheyev contract, and some of their depth pieces, yet again, have very good seasons. The defense core scares me a little bit after that top pair of Hughes and Hronek. If the Canucks were going to struggle this year, it would be because of those 4 defensemen. But overall, I think they should be a pretty good team and a pretty safe playoff team. Top 2 in the Pacific Division. At 6th, I got the New York Rangers, the reigning President's Trophy winners. Kind of a lackluster offseason, especially with it starting with Barclay Goodrow getting waived and then Jacob Trouba apparently getting traded. That has been a whole goddamn dramatic thing. I'm Team Trouba. Team Trouba. Let him stay in New York. But when looking at it, the New Jersey Devils, they were able to add Riley Smith. Not the most inspiring to be your first-line right winger, but it was good that they were able to get off Barclay Goodrow. They should yet again be a very, very good team in the Eastern Conference. I could easily see them winning the Metro Division over, say, the New Jersey Devils. I'm not thrilled with their offseason. I thought they should have been more aggressive with that first line right wing, but the team right now, barring Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, who are getting up there in age, regressing, this team should yet again be above 105 points. Maybe not win the President's Trophy, maybe not make the Eastern Conference Finals, but I still think that they are a very, very good team and could go on a deep run potentially. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche. Not the most exciting offseason, not the most exciting last couple of off seasons. When looking at it, they lost Sean Walker, but he really wasn't that good for the team, as well as the fact that they were able to keep Jonathan Duran for a really cheap $2.5 million. There's some question marks surrounding this team. Valery Nichushkin, what's going to happen, as well as Georgiev. I think they're probably going to run with him. He was solid post game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And overall, I think he's going to bounce back a little bit. When looking at Colorado, they're not the most inspiring teams. I don't think that some of their depth moves have not really been the best. But with their high-end superstar talent, they're going to be a top 10 team. They're going to be a safe playoff team. And if they can actually make some solid depth moves, I think they could potentially go on a run. Right now, I do like Dallas more in the Central. I do like Edmonton. I do even like Vancouver a little bit more. But when looking at Colorado, they're about as safe as it gets in terms of a bet to make the playoffs, so I have them at a respectable 7 spot. Boston Bruins at 8th. When I did this list 3 weeks ago, I had the Boston Bruins at 5th because I thought I would like their offseason a little bit more. Last year, I never really thought they were a true contender. I thought they were going to enter that true contender echelon with this offseason. I was a little bit disappointed with their moves. The Ullmark trade, kind of ass, taking on Korpisalo, 4 years left at $3 million per, on top of Lindholm and Zadorov. Lindholm and Zadorov are good players. They did get better this offseason. They definitely overpaid to do so. But when looking at Boston, I don't think that they're in that top 5 contender level anymore, but they're safely going to be a playoff team. 109 points last year, out for the most. The only notable player that went out is Jake DeBrusk, maybe Matt Grzelcyk, but he just wasn't good for them this year. And they got Zadorov and Lindholm, so they should be a solid team, but I'm definitely not as high as I was heading into this offseason with the multitude of cap space and multitude of moves that they could have made. It was definitely a little bit of an underwhelming outcome for the Boston Bruins. 9th, The Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to go with the Toronto Maple Leafs here. I know that the Tanev and OEL contracts, they're going to be disasters in 2 to 3 years. The fact that OEL is making $3.5 million the next 4 years, Tanev's making $4.5 the next 6 years. But I think next year, they're pretty solid deals. I really like Tanev at $4.5 million, and I think OEL will be a very solid puck-moving defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe he's worth right around 3.5, but compared to what their defense core was prior, they had literally no offense from the blue line, and not even a guy that could defend like a Chris Tanev. So I think the defense core is going to be massively upgraded. I really like the signing of Anthony Stolarz, highest save percentage, lowest goals against in the entire NHL this season. He was on the Florida Panthers. Don't get me wrong, definitely had a little bit of boost numbers from that. But even 2 years ago on Anaheim in like 25 games, he had a 917. I think he can be a very solid 1B. If Joseph Woll can stay healthy, he can be a very good starter. The bottom six is pretty bad. And that's what holds me back from putting this team like top 7, but I think that the top 6 is so good and they will be able to generate a lot of chances, generate a lot of goals, that I'm not overly worried about the bottom 6 in terms of especially their offense production. But right now, their bottom 6 projects to be Domi, Dewar, Holmberg, Yarncroke, Kampf, and Ryan Reeves, and that's with Bobby McCann playing in the top 6. So the bottom 6, if there was something that was going to screw this team, it's the fact they're not generating anything from the bottom 6 offensively. But I think the top 6, I think the improved defense core with an actual solid goalie tandem heading into the season, which we have not said in a while when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think they're actually going to be a very good team. And then lastly, at 10th, I got the Carolina Hurricanes. Yes, they lost a metric shit ton. Don't get me wrong. They lost Gensel. They lost Shea. They lost Pesci. They lost Teravainen. I do like the Sean Walker and Gothisbehere contracts, getting kind of replacements for Shea and Pesci for like half the price, as well as the fact that I think a guy like Scott Morrow is going to be able to step up with their blue line. Jackson Blake, Bradley Nadeau might be at the NHL level. But still, this team is a good team when looking at it. They still have a lot of their top end forwards. Slavin, Burns as that top pair is one of the best top pairs in the entire NHL. I think Anderson and Kochetkov will be a good goalie tandem. And Rod Brind'Amour, in terms of at least regular season, is one of the best coaches in the entire NHL. Last year, in the final 48 games, they went 35, 10, and 3 after a rough start. So this team still is very good. No longer a contender. I think this is a little bit of like a retool year, similarly to the Bruins last year, in the sense that they let a lot of guys go so they can open up some salary cap space for next summer. Or Bruins was more so like retirement, but you get what I mean. So in looking at it, I think the Hurricanes going to be a little bit of a dip, but they still should be a 105, 110 point around team after having 111 last year. It's going to be very interesting to see. Hopefully they bring back Martin Necas. They have the money to do it now. But yeah, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are still going to be a good team. So that is the full top 10. Oilers, Stars, Panthers, Devils, Canucks, Rangers, Avalanche, Bruins, Leafs, and the Hurricanes. Honorable mentions, Vegas lost just too much. I thought they might have been able to keep Jonathan Marchessault. They didn't, and they also traded away Logan Thompson, which I really did not like that deal, and they signed Samsonov at $1.8 million. That goalie tandem kind of concerns me. On top of that, beyond the bottom 6 is even worse than like Toronto Maple Leafs, as well as the Tampa Bay Lightning. A little bit too top heavy, although I think they actually did get better this offseason with the Gensel move, with the Sergachev trade, bringing in Ryan McDonough, as well as, I'm trying to think, Winnipeg, I guess you could make that argument for. They'll probably be a playoff team, but they don't really scare me that much, and especially because Nikolai Ehlers, we still don't know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you think about this top 10? Who would you move out? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Who would you move out? Let me know in the comments. I'll be seeing you in the next one.